This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, their songwriting techniques, and occasionally getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. Welcome to episode 145. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Coin. The American indie pop trio have just released their 4th studio record, entitled Uncanny Valley. In today's episode, we're speaking with frontman Chase Lawrence about how the band seamlessly blends genres together, what it's like performing with an AI robot, and I ask if we'll see them in Australia anytime soon. Here we go. Our guest today is an indie pop trio who are based in Nashville, Tennessee. Having met in college while studying music-related majors, the trio have gone on to release 4 studio records over the last 7 years, including their brand new record, Uncanny Valley. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Chase Lawrence from Coin. Hello, how are we?
I'm doing amazing. Yeah, thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for being on the show. Congratulations. The new album Uncanny Valley is out now.
Thank you so much.
It's I imagine it's a very kind of exciting time for you guys at the moment.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Honestly, I don't know how to act. Actually, now that this is off, I'm excited to watch it grow.
Yeah, of course. It's the 4th record in the band's catalogue, and while I feel it still kind of retains a lot of the signifiers that you would have on a Coin record, I feel like this one kind of grows sonically and kind of is that next evolution, kind of adds some more little textures to the sonic palette of the Coin discography. When you guys set out to make a record, do you kind of discuss this at the start, or is it something that you've just discovered as you go along?
So I guess you got to go back to like where we started this album, which was during quarantine and intense isolation, and we had written a lot that year as a means of like trying to pretend we could control anything, probably just like a coping mechanism, honestly. And so the well was pretty dry, but like we're like, what else can we do? I guess we'll just continue to write. And I had a co-write scheduled with Julian Bonetta, who ended up making the whole album with us. We just met, kind of like a speed dating situation. And he told me this quote that day, because I wasn't lost, but I was just kind of trying to understand what was next for me. And just a lot of questions being asked. And he tells me something really valuable. And he says, I think a successful artistic expression is when who you actually are meets who your audience thinks you are. And it struck a chord with me, and it made me it made me realize that I can't deny myself of where I've been, but I can't deny myself of where I need to go. And so I started being really honest about who I was and who people thought I was, and who I wanted to be. And so we set out to do something more adventurous, but somehow more universal, more honest, but more ubiquitous. And So it's a tightrope for sure, but I think we walked it. I don't know. We'll see though. I think I'm just excited to see this thing grow.
Of course, I think you guys have. I think you have walked it very, very well. Some of the tracks that have been released to the public so far. Well, the record is out now. Sorry, but some of the singles leading up to the release, like Chapstick and Brad Pitt, I feel had this quality. There's something in the tracks that are very like 1970s kind of pop rock or but then have this modern kind of touch or feel to it. You've dragged it right into 2022. What were the kind of influences that you guys had when you were, or what were you listening to when you kind of first began writing this record and started that process?
Nothing was off limits. We took basically maximal input, and everything from, everything was on the table at this point, because we had just opened ourselves up to a very experimental, exploratory project right before this album called Rainbow Mixtape, where we just kind of like indulged ourselves in our influences from like George Harrison to Joy Division and just went everywhere. And we kind of like played musical dress up basically. And it was a great experience, but we tried to figure out like, how do we bring this into our actual life and like take all the influences that we love and all the music that's inspired us, but like do less and keep it to like 4 or 5 tracks and kind of like have nothing to hide behind. So the first day I met Julie and we actually wrote Chapstick, and we've like basically pretended that our brains were like an AI computer. So it's like if you feed AI like hours of scripts, of like Law and Order scripts or something, and ask it to make an original Law and Order script, it makes its own original. So we said the same thing. We're like, okay, let's feed our brains like Rolling Stones Start Me Up and Gorillaz Feel Good Inc. We just literally just named two random songs. and then a couple hours later, like Chapstick came out, and we found that like working within these parameters because it's almost like you're in this universe of all these things and all these collections of memories and things that have inspired you over the years. It's almost paralyzing. And so by creating these parameters and operating within these things, you create your own world, and you can really run freely in there. And we call them uncanny values. And from there we replicated that process like 15 times. For Brad Pitt, it was like No Diggity versus I don't remember what it was, but yeah, it was like a blender essentially. We threw everything in there, and maximal input and little effort.
It's if that's little input, that's very impressive, because some of these tracks are incredible. I know that I believe you yourself were studying songwriting when you guys first met about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you feel that I think it was at Belmont, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that helped? Have you kind of still retained things that you've learned from college in songwriting these days when you are kind of like putting together items for coin?
I think that I'm not sure you can teach someone to write a song, but I guess you can force someone to, and or politely ask them to. And I think that process or that task of just making someone do something like so many times, the trope is true. Practice really does make perfect, or practice makes better, I guess. And so I'm definitely a product of just having done it enough at this point to kind of know what works, what doesn't. And
the most powerful designer drugs are the digital ones we use daily. And we get high off them. One touch, tap, like, scroll at a time. Just like tech creators want us to. Use digital without digital using you. Learn more at sync.ithra.com.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
And it's funny because you can like learn the tools of the trade so much that they can actually like hinder you from progressing, because you know all the reasons why it doesn't work. So I think I finally gotten to the point where I've done this long enough that I think I can like let free myself and become almost naive again. And so yes, that early time, it's not like I'm thinking about the training and rhyme schemes and certain things that I learned, but it's more so about just the blunt amount of hours that I put into this.
That's very fair. I can respect that. Chase, you are going on tour. You're taking the record on tour across the US, I believe, to the UK with 5 Seconds of Summer as well. After the last 2 years, in terms of obviously it's been a bit difficult to be a musician, are you looking forward to getting out there and playing some of these big shows?
I think after not doing for 2 years, not going to be honest, I'm a little insecure. Or as I'm going to be honest, I'm a little insecure, like nervous, but excited. So I don't know. I too soon to say how I'm feeling right now, but I think I'm feeling good though.
That's very fair. During the last 2 years, I know that the three of you, I believe, were kind of not originally from Nashville, but kind of use that as a hub, as a home. Were you, stationed in Nashville during the last 2 years while everything was going on? So Joseph, the guitarist, was living in Brooklyn at the time, and Ryan was living in Los Angeles, and we all kind of found our way back to Nashville. And then as we all got there, I moved. So I moved. I bought a house in my hometown, and in West Virginia in the mountains, and it's just been really great to kind of. I was able to work online, and I built a studio, and it's been great to spread out. And I think I need that that push and pull of Los Angeles versus the country, as it were. That's very fair. Because I know obviously Nashville has a very rich and well-known music scene. What's the music scene like in West Virginia?
Oh, there's no music. There's nothing. I don't know. I wish I could think of a parallel for Australia, but it's just nothing. There's nothing there, but it's beautiful because there's nothing. So, but I can speak to Nashville because I'm there. I also have a place there, so we're there all the time, and that's where we all live. So, but yeah, absolutely nothing happening there for sure, in the best way.
That's very fair. Speaking of Australia, as I just mentioned, you are kind of touring the world at the moment this year. Can we expect to see Coin down in Australia at any point with the record?
Absolutely, 100%.
It's very exciting. I know that there's quite a lot of fans here who are very excited to kind of see the live show that you guys have.
Yeah, we're excited for that.
Chase, one of the other tracks I wanted to talk about was I Think I Met You in a Dream, which stood out simply because I feel that it was a little bit more down tempo than the other songs, and a little bit almost like it was a different band, but still a fantastic track. Where did this kind of this different approach this track come from?
I can't describe it, but the night before I came to the studio, I had this dream, and I didn't remember I had the dream until I was at the session, and this moment happened, and I froze, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've lived this moment before. And I was like, I've seen this before. I saw this last night in my dream. And then Julian just we're playing these chords, and he's just like, I think I met you in a dream. And it's sounds like Glenn Campbell or something. And I just stopped, and I was like, I literally fell to my knees. I can't describe it. I've experienced that before. I'd seen it before. And so I was like, okay, let's chase this, because there's some reason that I've felt this before. I've been here. So we went for it, and the song was done pretty fast. But sonically, it's kind of the same philosophy of Chapstick, actually, which I know sounds crazy, but it's the idea of taking Velvet Underground, the band, these kind of influences, and then against like Common and Kanye West, kind of like modern drums. But we re-recorded the drums like 8 times. I'm not even kidding, because they weren't timeless enough, is what I kept saying, which I was clearly overthinking, I'm sure. But it was very important to me. Beyond the album, it was so much about like, I want this song to feel and sound like it was picked up from another era. And it was like, I didn't want it to, it needed to sound aggressive enough to fit into the modern landscape, but it needed to sound passive enough that it could have been pulled from the 70s. And so again, walking the tightrope, it was difficult. And obviously it required a lot of finessing and nuancing, but we got to a place that I've actually never been more proud of a song we've put out ever. It does sound like another band, but maybe that's why I love it so much.
That was purely meant as a compliment as well, just to clarify.
I don't mind.
Chase, I'd be very curious, because I know that you've just referenced in a number of the tracks, kind of like it's this meets this, or it's this meets this. Your own influences, because I know that you grew up, I think that your family is quite musical, but I don't think it was popular music that they kind of were focused on or kind of had in the household when you were growing up. Where did you get your influences from?
Yeah, I grew up in church, playing a lot, like an organized religion. So even still today, it's like a lot of my songwriting habits were formed from a very, very organized way. And but I didn't learn about rock music until I really met Joseph, like 10 years ago, probably. We sat next to each other. And I mean, around that time, I'd heard about MGMT and Tokyo Police Club and bands like that. And I was super interested in what was happening. But Joseph showed me the Cars, The Cure, and just opened my mind up to a whole other world. Even Rolling Stones, like they just wasn't around growing up. So so much of my musical maturation has happened because of Ryan and Joseph around me. So I think without them, I would still be probably making some honest music, but it might not sound as informed.
That's very fair. I think, was there a story? I think I heard a story that you played MGMT to your dad, and he's a producer as well, but he didn't quite get the concept of it.
No, he's like, what? It sounds out of tune. Like, I don't, it happens all the time. Even the other night we played on TV, he heard us and he's like, I think the guitar was a little out of tune. And we're like, that's the point.
That performance that you're referring to, you guys played on Jimmy Kimmel last week. And you mentioned AI before. You had a robot playing, I think was it the marimba behind you?
Yeah, that's it.
That was very, very cool. How did that kind of come about?
Well, it was really important to us to kind of, if we're making an album that's so informed by this idea of like what it means to be human, and using a title as on the nose as Uncanny Valley, it was just important for us to kind of use some activations in this actual space and kind of make people feel uncomfortable a little bit. And so we kind of did some research and some digging, and we found this bot named Shimon. And after a few Zoom calls of collaborating, Shimon's like fully AI, improvises, actually like a better musician than all of us, actually. And but it took some time to get it there because Shimon wanted to be pretty fancy, I think, hearing the song. And Chapstick's a weird song because it changes keys 3 times, but Shimon got it. But we simplified the parts, and after a few Zooms, we got it right.
It's a very cool performance. We'll make sure we put the link for it in the podcast episode of this episode. Chase, usually would ask, I guess, what they're currently listening to, if there's anything that's out at the moment that's kind of taking your fancy.
Yeah. Oh, let me look really fast. I can tell you. I think there's some. Let's see. Oh yeah. Well, I love that new Dijon album. So
great
it's
record.
like Yeah, it's been really great. Let's see. Oh, this is a band called Dead that I love, DEHD. Of course, Ryan loves Jimmy Stack. But still, like, to this day, like, what Gorillaz are doing even now is still, like, so innovative, and we're still drawing so much inspiration from that. Like, the Song Machine album with all the collaborations is, like, one of the coolest things I've heard come out in modern music in a long time.
I would agree with that. I think Damon Albarn does some incredible, continues to kind of just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, but it works in a way. It definitely works.
Yeah.
Chase, thank you very much for being on the podcast, and congratulations on Uncanny Valley.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Chase Lawrence and Coin for their time. Uncanny Valley is out now, and we've left links in the show notes if you'd like to buy the record. We also want to give a huge shout out to Louvel at Virgin Music Australia for helping out with today's interview. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Wednesday and Friday morning, and we now have a Patreon, which you can find within the show notes of this episode. You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.